Okay, this is Mr. Magliari and this is Mr. Lambert. We're going through his individual professional development plan. This is something that we've sort of worked on together since the post-observation, and we found some strength areas. You want to go over your strength areas here?
Okay, so these are for what we saw in your observation.
Correct.
As far as content knowledge goes, Adam thought I was very strong in my content knowledge, and one thing that we've been working on in my class is the student note-taking. We talked about how I have the notebook in the class for them, and I tell them certain things I need written down, and I use that, actually, since he's been there, I use that as a part of a review for the test that we had on that chapter.
Great.
Curriculum alignment, we talked about how our book is aligned with the Iowa core, and I'm able to follow that.
Yes, and you guys have created a kind of a curriculum map too with Mr. Elting as far as what essential standards you want.
Math department a couple years ago went through the Iowa core and identified certain standards that we want. Just narrowed it down to a few per grading period that we wanted to focus on. And then some classroom management techniques that I use were counting down to get their attention, and I like to vary my expressions and my pace and my tone to kind of, number one, keep the students' senses engaged, right, and kind of drive the pace a little bit that way.
Excellent. And some of the growth areas, I'll briefly go through. Check for understanding, that was 5C and 5E, and we have the standards next to each strength and weakness and growth. Student modeling content process, that was 4F. Connecting real life experiences, 4E, and then student collaboration, which is our group work.
Yeah.
So when we got together, we kind of decided to narrow down two, and those two were the first and the fourth one. Which is checking for understanding and student collaboration. So we've kind of reviewed the plan a little bit together. What part of the plan are you most excited about incorporating?
I'm excited about incorporating probably the check for understanding, at least initially, because of what it can tell me about what I'm doing in the class and what I need to change about what I'm doing.
Awesome.
So I'm looking forward to learning what I can from that.
Sure, absolutely. And so how do you see this relating to your students' needs? Like, how do you feel like this will really help your students in class?
If I know what they need, and this hopefully will tell me a lot, I know that I may need some individual questions from them, conversations to determine deeper, but that will at least give me an idea of what specific things that we worked on they can do well, what things they need to work on, and then I can spend more time focusing on the things that they need more.
Right, and it kind of helps guide your lesson planning a little bit too.
Yes,
yes.
Yes.
Absolutely. Do you feel these goals are valid based off in-class data? I know you just had a test in there recently, so
that you're talking about these goals.
Yes, and we'll go through them in a minute. Okay. And I apologize, I probably should go through the first one with you.
Let's do that.
In the next 2 units, at 6 to 8 weeks, Mr. Lambert will gauge students' knowledge of a lesson through an exit slip strategy. He will use the strategy toward his lesson planning and create informal assessments to check growth over knowledge gained in a particular unit. This goal is for 80% proficiency from 80% of his students. And you just had a test in there, and we'll use summative assessment to compare. But
yes, that can be our first benchmark. In the summative assessment, I had close to 60% of the students at that 80% level. Obviously not where I want it to be, so I plan on using the exit slip strategy as part of my plan of also not only for grading the tests and raising those, but also looking at the Iowa core and checking off whether or not they've met a certain standard.
Awesome.
So making sure that those exit slips match the standard that we're working on in that chapter,
right,
and use that to direct my next lesson and then reassess a week or two later.
Excellent. And then our second goal was in the next 6 to 8 weeks, so we would probably do this in the third trimester of the year. You would incorporate a project-based strategy in the third hour 7th grade class that I observed. That was something you said it would be nice to compare since I had been there before. You're going to compare that data through informal assessments from a rubric that has been created to view the amount of engagement between that class versus your other classes. And this data is going to come from a checklist. Now, a resource I added here, and I included the website here, is a checklist strategy website. So this website will help you in guiding a checklist strategy. And if you would like, you can always bring it in and we can talk about it and see if it's effective. And always, if it's not as effective as you want, we can always use a different one. We can sort of mend it a little bit. So, do you think, is there any concerns you have with these goals that you can think of? Anything, and be honest if there's something that I can help you with, or.
It's hard to say at this point if there's anything major. I mean, just the usual of not knowing, for example, the project-based strategy, the group work, is not something I do a lot of. So just kind of me learning how that's going to work and how that can be different from what I usually do.
Absolutely.
Just kind of going out of my comfort zone as far as that goes. But
yeah, doing the group stuff.
Yeah, I feel comfortable enough with what I do now to be able to try something different, and if it works well, to be able to change. So.
Right. It's definitely a different mindset in a sense when you're going through group strategies, and it's not something you need to do every day by any means. It's just, of course, to keep them engaged in the process.
And at this point, I'm always open and looking for things that the kids are going to like better. Because I may like doing it a certain way, but they may not understand it the same as I do. So
absolutely,
I'm always open to trying something that they'll find more interesting.
Yeah, and I also included another article for you. It's 25 quick formative assessments for a different classroom. So also to add on to the exit slip, it's just another strategy of just a lot of different really quick assessments to see, are they getting it, are they not? So, and then my other article was the group strategies and giving you 10 different type of group strategies, because there's lots of different student collaboration pieces, and as far as project-based learning and the Socratic method, which we talked about last time, and you're a philosophy major, so that might be something that would be awesome in there to see. Is there anything else I can do to better assist you in achieving your plan?
I think, if you visit me a couple more times, just to kind of revisit and to see what I choose to do for some of these things and get feedback on that, that I'd appreciate having that.
Yeah, and that's something Sure, absolutely. That's something with our informal walkthroughs too.
Yeah.
I can kind of walk in, pop in, and give you a little feedback as we go through the process. So that's great. After you've completed these goals, what do you feel like you want to do next?
Well, if I get to the proficiency that I want, obviously, my ultimate goal would be to get as close to 100 as possible.
Sure. Okay. So maybe raise the bar if you hit it.
Yeah, if possible, or when I get to that point, that's obviously the next goal. And then just to kind of keep expanding my repertoire of what I can do, and then be able to, at this point, I'll have to spend some time planning the group project and making that rubric and making sure that everything goes the way I want it to go. But if I get to a point where I like that, then being able to go back and forth and say, okay, today I want to pull out this activity, and if it doesn't go well tomorrow, I have 3 or 4 different things that I can try. And so just having the flexibility to change quickly from one method to another.
Excellent. That sounds like a great goal. Well, I'm excited to see this in progress and come down and also, I'm always here to look at lesson plans and things like that. Sure. So I want to thank you again, Mr. Lambert. It's been a pleasure.
I appreciate it.
All right, my man. Have a good one.